What's up, guys? Brandon back again today with another review on the channel. Today we are reviewing the first episode of Marvel Studios' new Disney Plus series, Moon Knight. So yes, now quick heads up here, I'm not actually doing a weekly series review of this show like I did with a lot of past Marvel Studios shows. I said in the Hawkeye one that I'm not going to be doing those anymore because they take a lot of time and it's hard to keep up with them. So I'm not going to do weekly reviews of the shows anymore. But you know, I thought, like, I've seen like Angry Joe, his channel, do that, where they review the first episode of a show, and then, like, they'll come back later on and do the full series review, because they probably don't have time to do the whole thing every weekly. So that's what I'm going to do that's what I'm going to do for Moon Knight. I'm going to review the first episode here, then I'll come back to do the full series later on, because I just wanted to get my, my initial thoughts of the show, like, here right away, as it just came out. So, and I'll do that with probably some other shows that come out later on, like other Marvel shows, and probably stuff like Obi-Wan Kenobi. So yeah. First episode review here, then I'll come back to review the whole series when it's fully done, so yes. But yeah, Moon Knight. So I was very excited about this show. I haven't really read anything about Moon Knight, but I've always been kind of interested and curious by his character. He always seemed really cool and just interesting. And you know, I think for this first episode goes, I thought it was pretty good. It was definitely a good start. It's a little bit different from other Marvel stuff, you know. Of course, the show itself, they said how they're very separated, kind of on its own from the rest of the MCU. It's in the MCU, but like it's not like very heavily like relying on connecting to anything. Like, of course, because all the prior Marvel shows we had so far were always spin-offs or like shows given to prior characters. This is a new character now. This time around, the first show about a new character, and it's very just on its own, doing its own thing, not really relying on any like Marvel, like other wider MCU stuff. There's not even like any big references, like there's no like actual references to the Wire stuff, no mentions of the Snap or anything like that, so it's very separate. I mean, there's probably going to be like stuff in like the streets, there'll be references to stuff like, I don't know, the world, whatever, the world thing they have that displays the people that came out from the Snap. They'll probably have stuff like, I think there was a set photo that showed that kind of reference, but just like minor stuff like that. It's going to be very just separated, mostly doing its own thing from the MCU for the time being. Of course it will connect at some point, definitely will probably show up in other stuff. You know, but it reminds me a bit of Black Lightning, that show on CW. When they made that show at first, they let it be its own thing for the first 2 seasons and not let it connect to, you know, the rest of the CW stuff, like all those shows. They just wanted to let it do its own thing and build out its identity before, you know, they brought into the Wire stuff with Flash, Arrow, and all the works. But yeah, I think that's actually a smart idea to have it just, you know, let it be its own thing and do what it does. And you know, I think it's interesting so far what it has. It's very much like, you know, just a mystery kind of and trying to figure out what's going on, like seeing what's happening and everything. And also got a bit of a horror vibe also, especially near the end or some stuff, which I'll get to. But I know, I think everything was pretty good, you know. Oscar Isaac, who plays a character now, of course, it's like, you know, Moon Knight is. He's a character who, you know, he's only been compared to as Marvel's version of Batman, basically. And, you know, he's also got kind of this split personality thing, which he does have in the show here. You know, of course, we meet Stephen Grant is the one we follow in this episode, but in the comics, the main one was Mark Spector, who we also see in this episode. Mark Spector is an ex-mercenary who became Moon Knight. He's usually the main, like, identity of this person, you know, but of course, in this episode, we follow Stephen Grant first. Stephen Grant, they changed him up a bit from the comics from, like, I do know a good amount of stuff. I've learned some basic stuff about Moon Knight. They changed it up from the comics. Stephen Grant usually is a bit more of a wealthy personality. Basically, all his identities are used for different methods. Like, his Stephen Grant personality in the comics was more of a wealthy, like, social kind of person, like, to get among the rich and fancy to get, you know, some information about different things. Here, of course, they changed up to be, he's a bit more just a average guy, works at a, you know, museum, kind of, not the right word I'm looking for. I'm not going to say klutz, but he's not a klutz. He's more so just kind of like, he's not really got a lot of friends, people don't remember his name that much, like that kind of guy. You know, they changed that, I think they avoid comparisons to Batman, obviously. But yeah, he's usually a bit more wealthy in the comics. There's also a third personality he has, named Jake Lockley, who's he's a cab driver that, you know, he uses that personality to get information from a lot of the low-level people on the streets for crime stuff. I'm not sure if that personality's in the show, so who knows. There's also, of course, the Moon Knight personality sometimes its own separate thing, I think, and also the more recent one, Mr. Knight, which is a thing will be in the show. So yeah, Mr. Knight's like a crime detective kind of thing, but yeah. But the time being, we have Mark Spector and Stephen Grant. Stephen Grant, who's now in London. Of course, I think they did that. I think he did a good job. I think some people are not too big on the British accent. I'm not really sure. I mean, I think he did good. I don't have a problem with it. But yeah, I think it was good. You know, and I think they plan him in London to like keep a cover for something. I'm not again. It's like a mystery to it, like why he's in London all of a sudden and everything. So yeah, but you know, Oscar Isaac, I think he does a good job as the character so far. He plays Stephen pretty good, and like you know we haven't seen anything much of Mark. We only saw a little bit, and like only a very glimpse of Moon Knight. So you know it'll be definitely interesting to see. He'll be definitely putting on his full acting like resume. I don't know the word I'm looking for is now. He'll be showing his whole acting chops. That's what I'm trying to say. He'll have his whole acting chops on full display in the show, trying to play multiple versions of this character in like one person. So that's all interesting. And like yeah. But yeah, the show, like, very much, it's very interesting, just a mystery, or kind of like, because, of course, again, Stephen Grant has no idea about this split personality thing. Of course, in the middle of the show, he just goes to bed and then wakes up in some Europe country right now and has no idea what happened, and he just kind of stole this, like, old, like, beetle artifact thing from, you know, our villain of the show, Arthur Harrow, who's played by Ethan Hawke. You know, and Arthur Harrow, he's a villain in the comics who's a minor villain. He's not even a minor villain. He was, like, he was a one-off villain from a comic from way back, like back in the 80s. So he was a very minor villain who, like, back in the comics, he was, like, did some Nazi kind of stuff. And, like, but he's not, so it's kind of weird. It's kind of interesting they chose such a minor, like, one-off villain for the first villain of Moon Knight in the show, and also got a big-name actor like Ethan Hawke to play him. I think some people have said there might be a misdirect or a surprise reveal of this character, like, it might be a combination, or, like, there could be a deeper meaning, like maybe he's another character, who knows, but maybe it's definitely interesting so far about why using this very, like, literally almost nothing villain from the comics, so that's interesting, but he's a part of a cult. He leads a cult of people who, like, you know, from what it seems like, they all worship a lot of this Egyptian stuff, like the god Amet, which is where his kind of abilities come from, that he can judge people with this, like, little scale thing on his wrists, and see, like, he can see their future, apparently, and see if they're going to do good deeds or bad deeds in the future. If you do good deeds, you're good. Do bad deeds, he drains your life force and you die. So, yeah. I mean, weird cult stuff. I mean, who doesn't expect weird cult stuff all the time? Like, it's always like that. You know? Hey guys, sorry for this brief little cut interruption in the review itself, but I forgot to mention this one thing that I want to mention, I think it was at the start of the episode, which was when Arthur Harrow broke that glass and then dumped it into his, like, shoes and then wore his shoes afterwards. Like, I remember just like that was pretty like just like you could like feel that's not good, that looks painful. Like I don't know why he did that. Apparently it's the thing that Ethan Hawke suggested that they do with the character. I'm not sure why he did it though. I haven't explained that. I'm hoping they will, because it's really weird. Like maybe my brother will watch it. I think he like said something like maybe that's supposed to be like to train yourself to walk lighter on your feet. So like because if you have like stuff like that like ready to puncture your foot at any moment, like maybe it's like trains to walk a little bit lighter, which I don't know. When you hear him walk in that town, like you hear a little the crunching a little bit of the glass. So, I mean, I don't know. So maybe it's hard to say. I mean, I think he snuck up on him in the museum. So maybe that is what it's supposed to be. I don't know. It's really a weird thing. Just watch that. I'm like, okay, that's already not like really gruesome, but like it's definitely a bit more, you know, like edgy or violent a little bit. I mean, it's not like violent, edgy, but you know what I mean. It's like it's a bit more. Just like ouch. I don't know how to probably describe it. Like it's a bit more, and I'm like, okay, that definitely sets a bit of tone. It's a bit more stuff like that. I don't know how to describe that, but like, yeah, it's not like, yeah, that's definitely not something you would see like in someone doing the other more movies, like just wear shoes full of glass like that. That's a lot. So yeah, I just want to mention that because it was a really weird thing. So yeah, back to the rest of the review. And yeah, honestly, I think just the whole perspective of the show, how it dealt with everything with the weird kind of mystery, but also, like I said, the horror vibe really, really worked. Like, just showing how, like, first of all, Stephen Grant is kind of tormented by the god Khonshu, who's just, like, this god of the moon, like, spirits from, like, years ago or something like that. But he's the god of the moon, and he chooses Mark Spector as his avatar, as the Moon Knights, to, like, be this vessel to fight crime, do out his moon god stuff that he wants them to do or whatever. Again, I've not read any Moon Knight comics. I want to. They're hard to find though. I can't find them on Amazon or Indigo. It's hard. So hopefully they start putting them in the better circulation after the show comes out, because I want to read them. So, but yes, and it was so cool to near the end of the show how like, yeah, I mean, like, of course, there's still that typical Marvel humor, but there's not a lot of humor in the show. Like, I mean, there's a couple of good bits of humor, but still, there's more, the heavier focus on this kind of mystery, almost creepy torment to Stephen Grant. It's more heavy on it, and like, near the end, how, Khonshu's kind of tormenting him because, Khonshu, for whatever reason, Stephen Grant's taking control of the body a lot right now lately, which is not good for them because they want Mark Spector in control. And of course, Khonshu hates Stephen Grant, thinks he's just a worthless worm, or whatever he called him. And like for some reason, he's in control, and like Khonshu's kind of like just haunting and stalking him, like just stalking him in the hallways of his building, or like just appearing on the street and then disappearing behind a lamppost. Like it's very creepy. A lot of that kind of stuff. It's kind of like interesting. And of course, that whole like scene in the museum at the end with like the dark hallway of that, like I don't know, like goblin thing, or like what is it, a jackal, whatever kind of monster was chasing after him. For some reason, when I watched that scene with that jackal thing, I was thinking to myself, like, why am I getting the vibe of those monsters from the first Scooby-Doo movie? Like, remember those things, those weird jackal things, like that the villain had in that movie? Like, I don't know why, like my first thought, it's just really random, but like that's what I was thinking. But yeah, they don't really reveal what that creature is. I'm sure they will. It's probably some kind, might be some Egyptian lore to that thing. So I'm not really sure. But that was just really cool seeing how he was like lurking around the statues and it was all dark, and then like, once, of course we see Stephen Grant, he is cornered into a bathroom, which by the way, weird bathroom, like why is, I noticed just only a few minutes ago, I'm like, there's only sinks in there, like there's no toilet or anything in there, like it's just a big bathroom with sinks, like what do you do in there, like I don't know. But like, he gets cornered there, and then like Mark convinces him to let him take control and save them, and he dons the Moon Knight costume, and like, and it's a very, we don't see much of the fight, we just see kind of just, they mess up that bathroom like really badly, and just he beats up this like jackal thing or whatever, and like, we had a brief glimpse of the Moon Knight costume, which we've seen in the marketing and everything, and it looks great, the Moon Knight costume, I really dig the Egyptian mummy wrapping around it, like, it looks really cool, makes it like, it looks very like, it looked very much like accurate to the comic, but also with that new addition of the mummy wrapping, it gives this nice little addition, like makes it look unique and everything. I think it looks very cool, I find. And an idea of it wrapping around him is interesting too. Like I think that's not a thing from the comics either. I know that, but I think that's kind of cool. How it's like this kind of thing that like the Moon Knight personality is kind of like encasing him at that point, I guess. So yeah, but all that stuff with that fight sequence, or what we did see of it, we'll get into the fights quickly, but like the whole scene with him talking with like Mark Spector in the mirror reflection was really cool. I thought that was interesting, Definitely those mirrors are CGI though, because they would not be able to do that with real mirrors. But yeah, that was all pretty cool. There's a lot of like interesting stuff like just with mirrors and like reflections they do in this episode, like with Stephen Grant like looking away and Mark Spector is still in the mirror, or like reflections of water puddles on the ground, or like these kind of like reflection cracks. Like when he wakes up, you see that when he looks around, there's that weird reflection kind of thing where like you see the reflections off two other things giving different angles. So a lot of cool uses of stuff like that in the episode, and yeah, just really curious. And like now I will say, of course, and like there's no real action per se in the episode, of course, because every time the action happens, Stephen Grant goes unconscious and Mark Spector takes over. We don't see that, but yeah, but we definitely will at some point. So. But I'm wondering, because of course, Moon Knight, of course, we see some of the action, it's, from what we do kind of get glimpses of, it's violent, like he does beat up that one guy very badly, his fist is bloody as all hell, and like you see like shot that one guy in the head in the truck. And, see, I'm wondering how violent the show will get. I mean, from those brief glimpses, like they're showing they're willing to go a bit more bloody like that. Like, I don't think the show will ever get as gruesome or dark or bloody as the Netflix stuff, because Moon Knight in the comics, he's actually a pretty dark, gruesome character. Like, there's like one comic where there's like this one villain of his named like Bushman or Bushmaster or something like that, where he like kicks Moon Knight off a building and he hits the ground and breaks his knees, and then Moon Knight just grabs one of his moon daggers and just carves his face off. Not gonna go that dark. Like, it's Disney. Disney will never let this show go that extreme, but I'm hoping like from like off the trailers and like from kind of glimpses here, there is definitely a bit more of a hardcore edge it has to it. Like again, nothing close to Daredevil or Punisher, but like I'm hopeful that they'll go as hard as an edge they can go with being on Disney Plus. So it may be hopeful. So yeah, again, I think some people are complaining about there's no real action in the episode, but like I'm fine with that. And of course, they're just setting up the mystery a little bit. So yeah, I will say though, the action a bit in that car chase sequence with the cars, rough CGI a bit. Like I mean, like, I definitely noticed there. Like man, that doesn't look great. Like there's a part where that one truck goes in like just crushes that one car, which looked weird. Like the one where the car falls off the ledge, off the mountain, didn't look right. Didn't look just looked very obvious CGI. And then also, like I said, the stuff when the truck crushes that one car or that avalanche of trees just like falling down. Like I'm not sure if this sounds right, but it looked very fast. Like I mean, it's going fast, of course, but like it felt like it was on a 2x speed thing almost. Like it was going quicker than normal, which how quickly it was happening. I'm like, this doesn't feel right. It doesn't really look right. I mean, I'm sure like it's probably made just for this episode. Maybe it's because in a lighter area it looked kind of rough a bit. I don't know. Wasn't like awful. Just like it definitely didn't look like it could have been at its best. I think so. Yeah. I don't know. I guess the only other thing I would say is a problem. Maybe or not so much a problem. I do want to know how did somehow Stephen Grant not realize he left his bed. I mean, like, of course he has all these precautions put in place to make sure he does know if he does leave or not. Like he has like tape on his door, he has sand around his bed to see if he leaves footprints when he walks out at night, and he chained himself to his bed. I'm sure probably Mark Spector got out somehow, but yeah. I would like to know a little bit more about how he somehow like avoided showing that he left, so that'll be interesting. Because yeah, of course, Stephen Grant has no idea like he's like just been going out at night. He's been waking up in different places, losing time and days, which I think is all very interesting. So yeah, it's definitely cool. So yeah, and of course also there's this one girl, Layla or something like that. I forget her name. The one female character who like I think was a friend of his or maybe a love interest who been calling him for months on end, like trying to get his answer and has no idea why he's speaking in British accent, has no idea about Stephen Grant. So clearly something happened with his probably when he became Moon Knight that made him go into hiding for some reason. Again, it's hard to say. There's definitely a mystery building up with that, see what's going to happen with it. So, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I think those are kind of all my general thoughts. Everything's definitely intriguing so far. Oh yeah, one thing I want to say before I forgot, actually, there's a part in his apartment where he's looking at the mirror in his bathroom, like when he turns on the light to try and see his reflection. Like, there's a brief part of the music, it sounds like Danny Elfman's Batman theme from the first Keaton film. Like, when you listen to it, you definitely listen to it and you'll know what I mean. It sounds like the Keaton, like, Danny Elfman theme. And, of course, it doesn't afterward, but, like, the first, like, 3 or 2 notes sounds like that theme. I'm like, that sounds like Batman. Which I thought was funny. I guess, maybe that was intentional for the Batman, parallels or everything, but, I don't know. But yeah, everything seemed interesting. We don't really know exactly what the whole plot is yet with Arthur Harrow, what he's planning to do. He wants this beetle thing for some reason, and so yeah, I think next episode we'll probably get maybe some insight into Mark Spector and his past. So yeah. But yeah, I do like how the episode ended. It was pretty great, just teasing Moon Knight, giving us that brief glimpse and like makes you kind of excited and interesting. When the also the credits, I'm about to say there's no after credit scene, but the closing credits I thought looked pretty cool. And the music's pretty great, so yeah, I like it. I'm very much digging it. This is like one of the stronger opening episodes of the Disney Plus Marvel stuff. Like definitely just a mystery and kind of this like weirder vibe, like horror-esque, very different from a lot of the other Marvel stuff. So I'm intrigued. I'm definitely intrigued to see where this goes. So yeah, I think for this first episode I gave it an 8 out of 10. I dig it. There's some great like use of visuals and like shadows and mirror effects. The acting is great. Yeah, I mean, both Oscar Isaac and Ethan Hawke, great actors, so that's awesome. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, Khonshu, the god, he looks great. I like his design, very much in keeping with the comics. He looks creepy and everything. He has F. Murray Abraham voicing him, who, I didn't know who that actor was, but he's been in some pretty big stuff. Like, he was in Scarface, so he's a big actor then. So, yeah, but I didn't know who that was. But he sounds great. I love the voice and the way it looks. It's great. So, yeah, I'm definitely excited to see more of this show. It's a 6-episode show, so I can't wait to see what it'll be about. So, yeah. Thank you for watching my first thoughts on the first episode of Moon Knight. Stay tuned for when I do my full series later on, which will be about 5 more weeks when that show ends. So, yeah. Thank you for watching. Tell me in the comment section down below, what did you think of the first episode of Moon Knight? Are you going to be sticking with the rest of the show or waiting until it finishes? So, yeah. Let me know what you thought down below. And I'll see you guys all later for the series, my full series review later on. So, yeah, I'll see you guys all later. Goodbye. Hey, if you like that video, guess what? YouTube put out a video just for you on the left. Or, if you want to take my advice, watch the most recent video on the right. Thanks for watching.